trained my mind on only one track.
Hey, what's up, guys? Today I'm going to be talking about something a little different. Going to be talking about a World War II infantryman rifle, and I'm going to start doing a little mini series on these World War II weapons, infantry weapons. And today I'm going to be talking about my favorite infantry bolt action rifle. So here it is, the Lee Enfield No.4 Mark 1. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the history of it, and then, this particular one that I have. So the Lee Enfield was designed in 1895, and, it's had tons of variants produced, all at different time periods and all for different purposes. The Enfield was the infantryman rifle from 1895 until 1957. So it saw a lot of service between its different variants, the MLE, the SMLE. The World War II variant was the SMLE, the short magazine Lee Enfield. And then there were several variants. The main difference, so this is a No.4 Mark 1. And the main difference between the No.4 and the No.4 Mark 1 was just a few slight things. The No.4 was only produced in Britain, whereas the No.4 Mark 1 was only produced in North America. The two manufacturers were Small Arms Limited in Canada, and then Stephen Savage in the United States. This happens to be a Stephen Savage Lee Enfield No.4 Mark 1. This was part of the Lend-Lease program, or the Lend-Lease Act, because at the time we were not really eager to hop into another world war, because we had just got out of World War I. So we were providing aid to Allied forces in the form of the Lend-Lease Act, where we would lend or lease firearms, ammunition, medical supplies to Allied powers. So, if you look, I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not, but this is marked U.S. property, and it has the boxed S No.4 Mark 1, produced in 1942 from the Savage manufacturing plant. The No.4 was manufactured in 1941, and the later we got in the war, the more simplified these rifles got. So this is a 1942 example. So it's a little bit more simplified than the original No.4, but it's still not by any means a last-ditch sort of rifle. But this weighs about 9 pounds. It's got a 25.2-inch barrel. The overall length of this rifle is 45.4 inches, I believe 45.4 inches long. It's bolt action, 10-round removable magazine. Can also be fed with stripper clips. This is chambered in the 303 Britt. And, this is very similar to an 8mm Mauser round. I'm sure most of you are not very familiar with the 303 Britt, but you might have some experience with the 8mm Mauser. I'll show you in comparison. So this is the 303 Britt, this is the 8mm Mauser, and as you can see they are very, very similar rounds. So those two were really squared off against each other in the war. And then also in Australia, against the Japanese, the Enfields also squared off against the 7.7 Jap Arisaka round, which is this one right here, compared to the 303 Britt. So very similar. Also, during the early parts of the war, when Russia was with the, Axis powers, here is the 303 Brit compared to a 7.62 by 54 Russian. So all very, very similar. Our main rifle at the time was, well, we had the 1903 Springfield and we had the M1 Garand's. Here is a end clip for the M1 Garand, chambered in 30-06. And I'll just show you a quick comparison between the 30-06 and the 303 Brit. So, very similar. Very, very similar. Now, the M1 Garand was actually a semi-automatic rifle, whereas most of the other rifles at the time were bolt action. I know the Gewehr 98 or the K98 Mauser is very famous for its design. And I'll be doing a video on the K98 Mauser later. But as far as action goes, Lee Enfield got it right. This is my favorite example of a bolt action rifle from the World War II period. Weighs about 900 pounds, and in this example, you just have a rear peep sight with a front sight post guarded. The two peep sights that you have, one zeroed for 300 meters, the other zeroed for 600 meters. They say the maximum effective range of the Lee Enfield No.4 MK1 is 500 meters. And it can shoot effectively well beyond the 500 meters. I mean, obviously, your peep sight is zeroed at 600 meters. So, this can accurately shoot very far ranges compared to the modern day AR-15, which is the modern day infantryman rifle, or the M16 or M4. And to compare, here is a 5.56 round compared to the 303 Brit. So, substantially larger round than what we're using today. The effective rate of fire, they say the average soldier could, place 30 well-aimed, well-placed shots a minute with the bolt action design of this rifle. Which is why it's one of my favorites, because even the Germans that would be on the other end of this rifle receiving fire would sometimes say that they were taking machine gun fire because the Brits could fire these rounds off so quickly. And that's due to the action here. So on this side of the rifle, you have, your bolt. On the opposite side, you have your safety lever, which deactivates the sear. And to show you the smoothness of this action, and that's it. And this is so you can see you can be very effective with this type of action. Very quick, very smooth, and this is why it's one of my favorites. It's just so damn smooth and just so quick. And so in comparison, I'll show you the action on a Type 99 Arisaka. This was the This was the weapon of choice for the Japanese, chambered in the 7.7 Jap, which I had showed you earlier. And as you can see, this has the magazine bolt hold open. But as you can see, it is just not nearly as smooth as the Enfield. And so, I mean, the K98 Mauser is a great firearm, but still, in my opinion, not as smooth as the Lee Enfield. Same with the 1903 or the Mosin Nagant. I feel like this is the smoothest action. I feel like it has a major advantage where it holds 10 rounds, where most of the other rifles of the time held 5 rounds. They were fed with stripper clips, where this one I showed you has the detachable box magazine, holds 10 rounds. It can also be fed with stripper clips. This had the spiked bayonet with a very nice attachment system. And just a little spiked bayonet, you know, nothing too serious. Not like the Mosin or the K98 or the bayonet for the Arisaka, which I will show you those when I do those videos. The difference in those bayonets. This is just a little spiked bayonet, but you know, you didn't really necessarily need a great bayonet with this rifle because it was so easy to reload the magazine. You could just pop a fresh magazine in and get back into the action, whereas the other rifles of this time period, you'd have to take a stripper clip out and feed the 5 rounds in. So for a urban or very close combat situation, you know, they would rely more so on the bayonets instead of just popping a new magazine in, because they didn't have that luxury at the time. So this is a quick overview of the No.4 MK1 produced by Savage. My favorite bolt action rifle of World War II. I will be doing videos on some of the other rifles that I mentioned earlier coming up on the channel. So if you got any questions, comments about the Lee Enfield or any other World War II style weapons, go ahead and leave them down in the comment section. And thanks for watching.